It is Saturday, July 27th, 2019, and this is the Pro and the Con Show with your host. That's me, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. As always, welcome to the show. So it's Saturday. So the show, of course, just a brief introduction. I don't know how many of these you'll watch. I apologize for the repetition if you end up watching several of these, but the point is, trying to encourage us to be open to some dialogue here and to, embrace the fact that some of these issues that we face as a society, well, there's more than one viewpoint on them. And if we're really going to move forward in a way that makes sense to all of us, well, we better at least be open to having a discussion about the different ways that you can view the same topic. And I use this little analogy to a coin. If you look at, you grew up and you look at one side of it, you see George Washington or an image or likeness of George Washington. And meanwhile, I'm looking at a likeness of the Statue of Liberty because where I'm coming from, that's what it looks like. Well, the truth is the whole coin, right? It's the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. And hence the name of the show, the Pro and Con Show. And, again, and also to shed light on, the facts and encourage people to, just take in the facts. So the who, the what, the where, and the when, and make your own decisions about what that means going forward. So I look at a bunch of different websites, Huffington Post, CNN. These are two kind of leftward-leaning kinds of things. NPR, mostly central. Not trying to sensationalize the news. Fox News, and then Breitbart. And so I'm just very quickly hit the top ones here. So Breitbart at the top of their main or headline is Judge Dismisses Covington Teen's $250 million lawsuit against the Washington Post. So this was in the news, I don't know, a month or two ago, a couple months ago, and there was a protest thing, and anyway, this kid, I think, was saying some somewhat racist stuff, and anyway, the Washington Post reported it, and then the kid was suing him because he said it wasn't racist or something. Anyway, I'm not too concerned about that. It seemed like it was a pretty frivolous thing on the whole, and then fairly typical of someone that's fairly young, doing kind of a brash thing, As far as Fox News, their head story is Baltimore, they call it. It's so Mr. Trump was, of course, tweeting as he often does, and he was tweeting some very negative things about a congressman, Elijah Cummings, and talking about Baltimore and how it's a miserable place and so on. Typical Mr. Trump attacking people that he feels like are not supportive of him. So I want to come back because the main thing I really want to talk about today is the main headline on NPR. So you see that. Just to read it, isolated and struggling, many seniors are turning to suicide. So that's the main headline for them. The golden years are thought to be a well-earned, carefree time in life, but adults 65 and older now account for almost 1 in 5 suicides in America. So I want to come back to that topic in just a moment, but let's just go through the other websites here very quickly. So CNN, again, there's a lot of reporting about racism, and especially Mr. Trump and some of his, you have to say they're fairly racist remarks. And so there's one of the main headlines is 100 years ago, white mobs attacked black people and they fought back. So this is, again, trying to keep the racist thing going. And now, on the whole, racism is, and I've done past shows about this, and I'll do them in the future. Racism is real, and we all have to be very conscientious about not allowing our subconscious or conscious viewpoints about others that we interact with to interfere with how we treat them. In the end, everyone needs to be treated fairly and equally, and basically if you're talking to someone or working with someone or interacting in any way with someone and the way you're treating them differs than you would treat yourself, then you should be, oh wait, why why would I be treating this person differently? And any portion of it that's associated with their appearance, tall, short, thick or thin, hair color, skin, makeup, whatever, sexual preference that you perceive, whatever it is, you have to leave that behind. And it's a conscientious effort by all of us. It's an absolute paramount thing that we all need to do. Otherwise, and so racism is always going to be with us, but we can conscientiously try to keep it at bay to the greatest extent possible, and hopefully make it where, in an ideal world, it would be minimalized. Another headline here, just to read it out, is really a shame that 2-year-old twins die after being left in a car for 8 hours. So this is, I read this story. He was a social worker, the father. Took these kids in the car and parked the car and went in and worked an 8-hour shift in a hospital as a social worker. And this is kind of befuddling to the people around him. At least they interviewed some of the people that he works with and other friends and stuff with the family. And they all say this guy really seemed like he was, a great parent and very intent on the safety of his children, but gosh, left 2 of them in the car, and because of the heat that happens in cars. And so if you're not well aware of this, but this, by the way, was not a grossly hot day. But if you leave, especially younger children, the worse, because they're less able to adapt and regulate their temperature. You can have these unfortunate events, but you would never, these are 1-year-old children. You can't leave 1-year-old children in a car. It's so mind-numbing kind of thing. So, and then Huffington Post, up until a few minutes ago, their main story was Trump attacks another lawmaker of color, but the story changed recently here to swimming and sewage. I guess the Saturday story is about summertime activities. So swimming and sewage, America's unsafe beaches. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we need to work on, and the environment, not just from the standpoint of all the carbon dioxide that we're pumping in the air and causing the heat from the sun to be retained at a higher and higher rate, which in turn, heat retained means temperatures rising. This is having a domino effect through everything around the planet. But the other thing is we very often are poisoning ourselves, our own water supplies, and in some cases, we pump stuff into the lakes and rivers and oceans, and then it comes back to haunt us in some of the places, recreational areas, and so on. Okay, so taking care of the planet, that has to be. It's where we live. It's our home, and this house that I live in is, you see the wall of my little office here in the upstairs of my little Wisconsin home here, Hudson, Wisconsin. But this is my house, so yeah, I take care of it, and I'm careful not to bring toxic things in here and have them around the house and that kind of stuff. And anyway, so the earth is our home. It's our only home. It's our home for 7.7, probably close to 7.8 billion people. That's it. It's our place. So we better take care of it. All right, let's go back to the NPR article. So, isolated and struggling, many seniors are turning to suicide. So I want to just make one comment before I'm going to read through parts of this article. But before I do, I want to just say that it seems to me, at least I perceive, that one of the considerable problems that we have as a species and in this society, the U.S., the United States of America, our community, is that we're too materialistic. We're into entertainment and material wealth and notoriety, power, wealth, influence, these kinds of things. And in the end, at least for me, I certainly feel this way, those are pretty empty things. It's one thing, you can enjoy playing a video game for a while, but after a while, there's no permanent or lasting reward, no feeling of accomplishment that in any lasting way. And so we have to replace this. So it all has to do with our definition of success, and we have to replace our current definition, which kind of leads us to this life of emptiness, if you will, to something else. So we need to put aside that goal of acquiring and accumulating wealth, influence, and power, which is the current definition of success, and instead embrace a new definition, and that would be service to the planet and the people on it. When you do these things, then you have this lasting reward that you've accomplished something of merit, and it lasts. You feel this way for a long time, this feeling of satisfaction and inner peace. At least that's true for me. That's true for many people that I've spoken to. But just offering that as something to consider. As now I read this article about seniors and their suicide rates. So Dr. Julie Richard thought her visit to Wisconsin. That's just a happenstance. I didn't pick this article because I'm here in Wisconsin. It just happened to be the lead on NPR here. Anyway, her visit to Wisconsin over Christmas holiday would bring a break from her day job working in suicide prevention in Washington State. The visit didn't go as planned. After a tense fight broke out between her mother and another family member, everyone dispersed. And Dr. Ricard readied herself for a trip back to the Pacific Northwest. At the airport, she received a call from her mother. This was not out of the ordinary. Her mother, like many adoring mothers, always calls her daughter after parting ways. And on the phone, the mother wanted to tell her daughter how much she loved and appreciated her. The doctor, Dr. Ricard, says, normally I would think, oh, that's a sign of suicide. But it wasn't. But it was during my layover, and I just had left her. And my whole life, she had always cried when I left, and always would say, "I love you." So some of these indicate what the doctor is saying is some of the normal indications that someone is depressed and maybe considering suicide. She was ignoring because her mother kind of emulates some of this stuff on a regular basis in the relationship over the years. Well, this time it was different. This time Dr. Rickard said it was goodbye. And so when Dr. Rickard landed, she received another call. Her mother, at age 72, had tried to kill herself. I went home and I guess I didn't know how to handle it, the mother said. It was just more than I could put together. I just made a stupid mistake. I guess I just wanted to give up because I feel like I wasn't a good mom, and that's all I ever wanted to be. Since that attempt back in January, Dr. Rickard has helped her mother find care, and the mother now takes medication and meets with a therapist. Still, the episode reflects the vulnerability of a group that researchers call forgotten population, and that is the senior citizens. So across the country, suicide rates have been on the rise. And that rise has struck the nation's seniors particularly hard. Of the more than 47,000 suicides in 2017, those age 65 and up accounted for more than 8,500 of them, according to the Center for Disease Control. Men who are 65 and older face the highest risk of suicide, while adults 85 and older, regardless of gender, are the second most likely age group to die from suicide. Now, I had no idea. Maybe you did. I had no idea that adults age 85 and older were regularly considering suicide. So here's a graphic. I'll just put this up momentarily so you can. Talks about suicide rates in America versus age brackets. And really, it's pretty significant. It says there's really around 15 to 20 suicides per 100,000 for all age brackets, 15 and older. So there's something that happens, obviously, when you get to age 15 or so, and then beyond, versus less than age 15. That's kind of an interesting thing in and of itself. So it says, what's particularly worrying is that when seniors attempt suicide, they are far more likely to die than those who are younger and attempt suicide. Research has found that 1 out of 4 senior citizens that attempt suicide actually die from it, compared to 1 out of 200 for very young adults. And while the precise reasons for these figures remain unclear, experts suggest seniors are more frail and thus more vulnerable to self-inflicted injury. They also can be more isolated, which makes rescues more difficult or less timely. So it says here, one of the prevalent issues for seniors is loneliness. Older adults often live in isolation, and they may be struggling with the death of a lifelong husband or wife, or the grief of losing other close family members. So research has shown that bereavement is disproportionately experienced by older adults. And then aging also presents things that are difficult to cope with, like chronic disease, so arthritis, diabetes, and high blood pressure. And in fact, 77% of the elderly report that they have more than one, so 2 or more chronic diseases. And so they lose the ability to complete routine daily tasks, and then depression can set in. And this is another thing where, serving your fellow man, you imagine that these seniors regularly, had people, just volunteering to help them and to spend time with them. I know that the handful of times that I've gone to like a senior center and to spend time or make a presentation or sing carols or those kinds of things, wow, the people there, they just seem like they're so starved for companionship. I'm just very closely, just quickly going through here. Okay, so what to watch for. So research on suicide among the elderly is scant. Therefore, it means that loved ones and caretakers are often unaware of warning signs, but experts say there are certain behaviors that should be considered red flags. These include stockpiling medication, rushing to revise a will, using alcohol or drugs increasingly, altering their sleep habits, sharing statements of hopelessness, and also withdrawing socially. So if you see those things, let me run through those again. Stockpiling medication, rushing to revise a will, changing alcohol and drug usage, increasing that, alternating sleep habits, sharing statements of hopelessness, and then finally withdrawing socially. Let's see here, I'm just going through. So the Dr. Ricard believes that through human contact, medical and psychiatric help, exercise, physical well-being, regular visits to primary care providers, and hydration, seniors can improve their mental health. But I would dare say that a big part of that would be get out there and spend some quality time. You learn a lot of history and you know, the culture from past generations. Well, anyway, I think that's enough. I didn't actually read the entire thing, but I see that we're kind of running out of time anyway. All right, so the Pro and Con Show, Michael James Ott, again encouraging everyone to embrace a new definition of success, and that is service to the planet and the people on it, especially the elderly who are feeling lonely and abandoned, and really having a lot of issues where they lose the ability to do routine things, and all that can cause depression. So let's get out there and make sure we're spending some quality time with the folks in their last decades of their lives on this planet. All right, so another show tomorrow. That will be Sunday, July 28th, and try to be 6 p.m. tomorrow. It should be, I think. Today's live at 6 p.m. Central. And until then, as always, bye for now.